Trevor Lawrence.
T-Law.
Gorgeous man.
Best hair in college football.
Fact.
Hands down.
Oh, no doubt about it. Prettiest man in college football.
All right, so Trevor Lawrence, 7-2 odds to win the Heisman. Played in 15 games for Clemson. 4 of those games he didn't start, but he still put up really good numbers. He was a 65.2% passer, 3,200 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, and led Clemson to a national championship. I really like Trevor Lawrence. I definitely think that him and Tua will definitely be finalists for the Heisman.
Yeah. I mean, if they stay healthy, knock on wood, there's no doubt these guys will be in New York. I love Trevor Lawrence. I think he's going to be if there wasn't the rules that you had to stay in the NFL for 3 years, he would have been the number 1 pick this year, no doubt. So I think no doubt about it. Trevor Lawrence if I had a bet right now, I would put my money on Trevor Lawrence. I feel like the offense he's in with the coaches at Clemson, the defense too, I think he's going to have a really good record just like last year with the team, and I think he's going to put up amazing numbers just because he's a fantastic quarterback. So he would be my pick for the Heisman going forward.
I definitely have to agree with Charlie. Trevor Lawrence is definitely the number 1 on my board. I really want to see him win this. He's a great QB. He's like just watching the national championship, he could definitely sling the ball. He knows what he's doing. He's confident. I mean, people literally compare him to Peyton Manning, which is a huge accomplishment, a huge comparison. Like that just shows what kind of QB Trevor Lawrence is. However, I think the one thing that he doesn't have is the run game. And if we learned anything from last season, I mean, this may be a little biased because I'm an Ohio State fan, but I definitely think Dwayne Haskins should have won the Heisman. And the main reason I think he didn't was just because of his running stats. He literally threw for 4,800 yards, which is 500 yards more than Kyler Murray. Had way more touchdowns. I think it was like 8 more touchdowns than Kyler Murray, and yet he still lost it. I mean, as a QB, your main job is to throw the ball. But however, in this era of QBs, especially in college football, it's huge that you got to run the ball.
Dual threat
and you got to be a dual threat. Yeah, it really is important. I think Trevor Lawrence doesn't have that. Granted, he can't pick up the first down when needed, but he's not like Kyler Murray. He's not like Tua. He's not like Jalen Hurts where he can totally run the ball, get around people.
The hair weighs him down.
Cold take, freezing cold take. But what I would say, yeah, I agree with that. I just think it's the idea that he's not what people would like. People described Kyler Murray as like an electric player. Like you wouldn't say that about Trevor Lawrence. He's like the perfect quarterback, like build and everything, and he's like going to be like precise with his throws. He's not going to do anything crazy. Like he's not going to go out like scramble out of the pocket, make crazy plays all the time. Like he's a great passer. He's just going to do that. I mean, he's not going to have that like electric big play stuff like that. So that would be the only thing I think that would hold him back.
The thing about Trevor is he does his job as a quarterback. He has a very strong, very reliable arm. And as a true freshman, still adjusting to the speed of Division I football in one of the toughest conferences in the country, in the ACC, threw 4 interceptions in 15 games.
Okay, we're going to talk about how good the ACC is like on another podcast, but gotcha.
Okay, so I just want to talk about his performances in the playoffs. Against Notre Dame, he threw for 327 yards, and against Alabama, he threw for 347. Now, granted, those scores are 30-3 and 44-16, but I definitely think he elevated that Clemson team. He took a team that already made the playoffs the previous year with Kelly Bryant, but Kelly Bryant wasn't able to beat Alabama or make them national champions. So I definitely think that Trevor Lawrence did a lot for that Clemson team. He has good weapons around him, like we were saying about Travis Etienne, a fellow Heisman hopeful, as well as Justin Ross and T. Higgins, both really good receivers. But I definitely think that Trevor Lawrence, really good Heisman guy, really great quarterback, and I think if he throws for around 4,000 yards, might have a strong chance. I definitely think he's going to be a finalist.
Yeah, and the big thing that you mentioned was he rose in big games. And that's been something that I've heard a lot of people talking about is a knock against, I think, the next guy we're going to talk about, Tua, right? Next guy we're going to talk about. That's been a big knock for Tua. He had 2 interceptions in the first 12 games that he played in the regular season of college football. And then in the last 3 he played against Georgia, Oklahoma, and Clemson, he had 4 on top of that. So a lot of people are saying, he hasn't played well in the big games besides that one national championship where he came in the second half. So that's a knock where people are going to have to see, how Tua does in the big games next year. That's going to be a big thing for him. And obviously we're going to get into that.
All right, so our next Heisman hopeful, like Charlie said, is Tua Tagovailoa. He is a junior quarterback from Alabama. 5-2 odds of winning the Heisman. He was a 69% passer in 2018, threw for almost 4,000 yards, 23 touchdowns through the air, 6 interceptions, 190 yards on the ground, as well as 5 TDs. I really like Tua's chance. Tua was a finalist, and I'm pretty sure he was the runner-up for the Heisman in 2018. But I think that's why his odds are so high, especially because he was already a finalist. And we've seen players like Deshaun Watson. Even though Deshaun Watson didn't win the Heisman, he was a finalist 2 years in a row, back-to-back years.
Yeah, no doubt. I think what I talked about with Trevor Lawrence, the idea that he's not like an electric player. We saw all last season that Tua Tagovailoa is definitely an electric player. Has the ability to run, but he doesn't have to do it because he's such a good passer. And he makes those, ridiculous plays that we see on ESPN every week. So that'll be a big thing that'll, get him into the media's attention, and that will probably raise his chances of being the Heisman winner.
I mean, he's the best lefty quarterback since Tim Tebow, and he does everything that Tim Tebow does except even better. I mean, he could throw the ball better than Tebow did. If he wanted to, he could run the ball better than Tebow did, in my opinion. But also, you have to think, he's got a new offensive coordinator this year. Not sure how that could pan out, but, I mean, you never know. I mean, Alabama's offense is just, you could do anything with them. They could be electric. But it will be interesting to see what Sarkisian can do for the Alabama offense.
My one question is, I want to know if Tua is going to get the credit he deserves. I think a lot of people are going to just revolve around the idea that he could be like a system QB. He's playing in Alabama's offense with Nick Saban. He has the number one receiver in the nation. So I wonder if people are going to give him the credit he deserves, or really just base all of everything he does and all of his accomplishments just being on the team that he is, literally the number 2 team in the nation.
Yeah, so Tua, as an NFL prospect, that's a knock on him, like Ray was saying, that he's surrounded by great players. Alabama always has great running backs. Jerry Jeudy, probably the number 1 wide receiver in the nation. But I do think Tua's probably, if not the best quarterback in the nation, maybe behind Trevor Lawrence or maybe equal with Trevor Lawrence. But I compare Tua to probably a little bit taller Russell Wilson. Same skill set, can run around, can scramble like nothing else, and can throw the ball, has great arm strength. But I definitely think if he wins the Heisman, he has to have more touchdowns through the air. 23 is not going to be enough. Probably near 30, 40 touchdowns is what he would need. But we're not the ones that make the odds, but he definitely has the favorite odds. That's what Vegas says. So does anyone else have anything to say about Tua? Or
yeah, aside from the fact that he's going to be going for the Heisman, I think another big discussion that people will be talking about once the season's over, once the Heisman's given out, is who will be the first quarterback taken off the board. Will it be Tua or will it be Justin Herbert? So that'll be something to watch too, because Justin Herbert's obviously that pro-style quarterback that we see a lot of times go really high in the draft, but Tua's the electric player who's also pretty much a pro-style quarterback. So aside from the Heisman talks, I think that'll also be something that Tua will be working for, and also that people will be looking into throughout the year.
I think Tua is probably going to be the first quarterback off the 2020 draft board. I think he's probably going to go number 1 to whatever team needs him, especially if the number 1 overall pick is a quarterback-needy team. And it's said that the Miami Dolphins will probably have the worst record in the NFL. And if Ryan Fitzpatrick and Josh Rosen don't work out for the Miami Dolphins, I definitely see them taking Tua Tagovailoa with the first overall pick.
Yo, F in the chat for Josh Rosen if that happens. It's gonna get replaced by Kyler Murray and then replaced by Tua. It's going to be a rough start to Josh Rosen's career.
NFL is a tough road.
Yeah, honestly. So, yeah, that'll definitely be something interesting to watch throughout the year, aside from the Heisman talk. But, yeah, definitely if I had to put money on it, I probably wouldn't put my money on Tua. I mean, he wouldn't be a bad bet, but obviously I have Trevor Lawrence as my favorite. So, obviously Tua's not a bad bet, but he does have the highest odds. So, if you want to make a little cash back from your investment, I'd definitely put it on someone other than Tua.